Good morning, Tuesday morning here. This has been a hard video to record. Only once have I gotten through it properly, given the correct information without going way too long or without going blah, 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 and getting my words all mixed up, and I didn't record it. So we're going to try here again. Some people have been asking me about, is it possible that we can start meeting together, have Bible studies together, have church on Sundays together again, and they're giving me some of the information. So let me just say this, is first of all, make sure that the information that you're looking up is correct, applies to us, applies to churches, applies to our province even. So there's a really good resource available. It's called the Canadian Council of Christian Charities, so 4Cs, so cccc.org. Our church is a member of that. Now, they are kind of the experts when it comes to legal issues for all kinds of things. So copywriting information or just all kinds of different things. They've been our go-to for many, many years to do that. And COVID is no different. Now, even though you individually might not be a member of that, there is public information available to you. So you can go to cccc.org and look up COVID and find the latest update, and then they have the links to the appropriate websites for our province and for the relaunching and what that means for worship gatherings and all these things. So you can go there if you want to see the information for yourself and see actually what is correct, so that we're operating on the proper and current information available to us. Now let me just say this, it is very important to me to get back together when we are able to. I am so excited. It's preaching to a camera in an empty room and giving updates to a computer. Don't get me wrong, I'm very thankful that we've been able to do that, but it's not the same as meeting together. And I'm so excited for when we are able to meet together. So not tomorrow, but next Wednesday, or the following Wednesday, I should say, so that's, I think, the 20th, is our church board will be meeting together, and we're going to begin discussions of what does it look like, what are some options in front of us, and what are the implications to those options, because we want to be prepared so that when we do start things and start them correctly according to what the government has asked of us, that we understand all the implications to it and we're prepared for what will come with it. So know that's important to us, and we're not just sitting here going, wow, this is just the way it is, we'll just do this and we'll just be okay with this. I'm not okay with this or with Sunday morning to a camera. Again, I'm thankful for it in the interim, but it's not the long-term plan, and we are excited for when we're able to meet. So some people have been asking, could we have church with less than 15 people? Is that possible? And while, yes, it's possible, there are a lot of implications with that. So this morning, the latest information, right, is you can have 15 people or less if you follow all of the social distancing rules. We are not allowed to sing because you'd have to, that's a high risk thing for germs to spread. So there are certain implications, but even from a practical standpoint, so I would have to be there, we'd probably have to have a slide person there, might have to have a sound person there. So we're probably around like 12 people that we could invite. So who do you invite? Is there do we go by names and chunks in the directory where you guys can come this Sunday and then you guys can come the next Sunday? And how do we oversee that and manage that? What happens if there's people in our community who through this, let's say they not go to church, they don't understand Christianity, but through this they've been like, man, I'm overwhelmed, I'm looking to somebody for some answers or for some help or for some guidance or just who is God, and they show up at the church, and that's the kind of person that we're called to minister to, and we go, oh, no, you can't come in, our service is full. Like how do we deal with all those things? So there's a lot of implications to that. If we're having a Bible study and somebody happens to come who's like, I'm not into this social distancing, I'm not going to follow it, and they're sitting too close to somebody, and if somebody comes in and reports us, that's $1,000 fine that we have to deal with, and then the government, I mean, just think of the implications to all of those things. So we're not prepared, we're not ready at this point. We haven't thought of all the implications. We haven't thought of how we can start getting together. We don't want anyone to feel left out or hurt. We're doing everything that we can to make sure that we're prepared for the day when we can start meeting together again. So let me just tell you that this is important to us. We want to meet together, but we want to do it correctly, and we want to do it in a way that honors the requirements from the government because they are an authority over us. Let me just say this as well. There's a group of Calgary pastors who are very long-time serving members in their churches and their denominations, and I don't really know how to explain it other than that if anybody has any sway with the government, these guys do. And so they put a petition together to the government of Alberta to ask that churches have certain exemptions in that. Now, it's very well worded, it's very respectful and kind, yet it shows why we believe the church has a mandate to meet and why there's reasons that they think we should be able to. And so it's a great worded thing, and it should be in the hands of the government now, and so hopefully that's getting some traction. So pray for that, and pray with us in that. So that's what's happening. That's what we're doing. I just want you to know that because this is important to us. We are so eager to be able to meet together again. Okay, now the hard stuff. I've probably been avoiding saying this because it's hard to know how to say it. It's hard to know how to direct it to those who need to hear it because, again, I'm speaking to a computer screen. But let me just say this as lovingly as I can. If you're a Christian, you are an ambassador of Christ. That means we represent Christ to the world by how we live and how we act. And I've seen a lot of things on social media and other places online and heard conversations that are not very honoring to God and not representing Christ the way that we are called to. Remember, we are called to submit to our governments, to follow their authority. And yes, if they're persecuting us and singling out Christians, then we deal with that differently. But even in disagreeing with our governments, if we disagree with them, we can do that in ways that are respectful and ways that are still honoring to God. And so we need to be very careful by how we talk and how we act. Because how we live will tell the world what we actually believe in our hearts and whether we actually choose to follow and trust God. See, our hope doesn't come from the government. Our hope doesn't come from the conditions that are in front of us. Our hope comes from Christ. And so how we live should be clear to the world that we believe that. And so I just need to say this is watch what you're posting, what you're saying, and how you're talking, because you represent Jesus Christ and represent him well by what we're doing, by how we talk, and by how we live. Maybe ask yourself the question, should I be posting this? Is this thing that I'm about to put on social media, is this honoring to God, or is this just showing my frustration and my anger? I was reading in Proverbs here this morning, a few different verses, and was reminded of the power of our words. See, when we get together and when we talk together, yes, there's hurts and there's pains and there's frustrations and difficulties. And I'm not saying we pretend those aren't there and just pretend everything's fine and everything's good and our life is wonderful. I'm not trying to pretend that that's the case. But when we get together, if we're going for a walk with somebody and we're having a conversation about some of the hardships and some of the difficulties, we can still do so in a way that is encouraging to one another and that builds each other up, that is helpful, and that is positive. Alternatively, we can do it in a way that's very negative, very harsh and very mean, and we can leave that conversation even more frustrated and even more fired up and angry and want to go post other things, and like misery breeds misery, right? Like when we get together and we yell and we're angry, it doesn't help. We vent for a few minutes, but it doesn't help beyond that. Is recognize that your hope is in Christ, and that yes, this is a difficult time. This is a very difficult time, and there are very difficult implications with this, but our hope is in Christ. And we're called to submit. We're called to respect our authority. We're called to be careful to be ambassadors of Jesus in how we live. And so I just want to challenge you with that. Know again, we are looking forward to when we can meet together again. We're looking at ways in which how we can do that creatively and yet follow all of the guidelines that are in front of us. Certainly, we can adapt. Just read the early church. They had to adapt constantly to things that were happening in their culture. And we do now too. And I think sometimes we look at it and we go, I should be able to do what I did 3 months ago. And that's all we're focused on, rather than going, how can I honor Christ in these days? How can we meet together in ways that are effective? This is why we're doing things like Zoom for our Bible studies. This is why we're putting the services online. We're adapting in these days. And we are looking for ways for how we can get together again. But we're going to do that in a way that honors the government, that is respectful. We're going to do that in ways that, above all, show Jesus Christ that we are his ambassadors, that we love him, and that we want to declare to the world that our hope is not in the world, but our hope is in Jesus. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I just want to challenge you with these things, and I'm looking forward to the day we can meet together. Bye-bye.